So today this is purely a piece of retro indulgence. This is Cannondale Jekyll. So this must be at least 20 years old. Absolutely immaculate. You have to appreciate the craftsmanship. You might have only ever seen this fantastically smooth suspension sensation. This was from an era when disc brakes were only just becoming a thing. Adjustable geometry. It has had better days. Pretty special for the Jekyll of its day. So today this is purely a piece of retro indulgence. I just hope you just come along for the ride with me and enjoy. So this just came into our shop for a bit of service work. This is a Cannondale Jekyll. This is the made in the USA, the aluminium frames. And do you know what, compared to that Mason and other bits and pieces we've had in recently, just the quality of these welds is absolutely outstanding. Like, these have been welded and then smoothed. But the paintwork, even after, this must be at least 20 years old, is still absolutely immaculate. It's still a really thick powder coat paint. I don't know how they did it, but it's you have to appreciate the craftsmanship. I don't think we did back then because it was just kind of normal, but now it's kind of a step above even what we're seeing. Anyway, this features the Headshox. You might have only ever seen this in pictures and that sort of thing. It's actually a really ingenious system where the suspension is built into the headset here. And how they did this was actually dead clever, because the steerer tube is actually a square, and then they have a cylinder with a square on the inside. So you have a square on a square, if you like, which makes the steering really, really rigid. And between those, they had layers of like rolling pin shaped roller bearings, they call them. So like a big long strip of them. So you get this fantastically smooth suspension sensation. And on the inside of the steerer, that's where they had the spring and the damper. I think sometimes they were a coiled spring. I think later ones had an air spring in them as well. So really quite ingenious. Servicing them was actually really clever. You just needed to undo this, literally pull the damper out. And fairly easy to service. The hardest bit was actually servicing the roller bearings underneath there, but this is actually working really well. This was from an era when disc brakes were only just becoming a thing, and this has never had a disc brake fitted to it. So had all the mounts there. This is international standard, again, a standard we just don't see anymore. I strongly suspect that these Magura brakes have been fitted at another time. I think this probably would have come with like XT style V brakes on them, but I think the wheels are probably original because the Shimano and the Mavic combination was really popular at the time. Now, the reason they called this the Jekyll was because it had adjustable geometry, which you still get on the current day Jekyll. I'm not sure if they still make it, but the Jekyll for a long time had this adjustable rear end. And it's really with this rear shock that we sort of see the major problem. I don't know if we're going to be able to solve it. You see, this shock, I don't know if you can hear it, it has had better days. It has lost its squish. If we compress that down, we can hear this horrible squelchy, oh, it's so bad. Now the really sad thing is that we can't just replace this with a modern day shock, because it actually has a trunnion mount halfway down the shock and then a normal mount at the back here. So this is pretty special for the Jekyll of its day. I have serviced one of these before, more as a sort of restoration project, and they weren't too bad. You can sort of take out all the individual O-rings and measure them and find them and order them in separately. And the guys at Fox are actually really good. They do have all the old retro technical documents, so you can still find out air pressures and oil viscosities. So it's not impossible, but my God, is it a labour of love to try and restore those sort of things. And that's assuming that everything on the inside is actually intact. You know, if you've got wear marks on any of the shafts or any of the air cans, it's almost impossible. There's no chance. So the customers asked us not to touch that because they just use it as their hack bike these days. But I'm kind of glad, because the cost of doing it gets quite high. All the suspension pivots on this are all absolutely intact. In fact, there's only really one major suspension pivot on the whole thing. So unlike modern bikes, there's no suspension pivots down here. The main pivot is just this one here, and these ones here on the shock. Other than that, you can see how that suspension works. Very, very simple design. The retro lovers amongst you will love the fact that it's still on square taper bottom bracket and triple chain rings. The old Shimano Mega 9 system. I think they did this in a version that was what they called Rapid Rise, where it actually defaulted to the lowest gear, and as you clicked, it meant that both your front shifter and your rear shifter worked in the same direction, which is pretty clever at the time. I don't think the idea really, really caught on. So yeah, we go. What a cool little look back, because when I was a kid, this would have been like a bike that was just way out of my price league. It just would have been up there as, you know, that's what all the pros were riding. It was a bike like this. We're going to finish this video up with a few little lovely close-up shots of all this beautiful quality welds and frames. So just enjoy. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take it easy.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.